Hey, welcome guys. So this is video number 2 of the 2-part series for Valentine DIYs. So let's jump in. So for our first DIY, we'll be doing our wall art. So what I did, I had the frame of a round mirror that I had taken out the mirror and used it for something else. So I took that and I cut a circle from a foam board that I had. So I'm now painting the frame white. I painted the frame white and set that aside to dry. Then I am going to be drawing lines that probably the same width as the ruler, equal lines on the board. So I drew as many lines that I could, because what I will be doing, I will be painting strips of red in the spaces. So I took some masking tape and I covered the areas or the lines or the spaces that I wanted to be white. So I covered that with the masking tape, and I went around and did all of that until all the spaces that I wanted white were all covered. Then I took some red paint and I painted the areas, the white areas that remained. Those red, and when I was done, I gave it probably 2 coats, and then when I was done, I set it aside to dry. The back part of the picture mirror frame, it actually is a mirror frame. I took that and I placed it back and sealed that in. Then I took the foam and I am going to glue that on with hot glue. I made sure to give it as much glue as possible. Then I took the glue, the hot glue, and I glued the back in. Now I am removing the tape. And I had to be very careful, because while I was doing that, I noticed that the tape was lifting up the surface of the board. So I had to be very careful while I was lifting it. So now it's done. I took some Mod Podge and gave it a couple coats of Mod Podge and set it to dry. Now I'm taking this sheet of letters that I had, and I am cutting out the words, "This way to love." So I made sure I cut them out first before I actually glued them on. I placed them down just to make sure that they were aligned in the space properly before I actually glued them on. So there you have it, "This way to love." I am going to take my Sharpie and draw an arrow, a fishbone arrow. I want to call it a fishbone arrow. So I traced it first with the pencil, a fishbone arrow. Then I took the Sharpie and just highlighted the arrow. Then I took a heart from this table scatters, cut it down a little bit, and then glued that on. Now, where I had placed the foam board and where the frame was, because I had placed it on top of the front of the frame, there was a space. So I took a piece of nautical rope and just covered the area, and that was done. So now we're on to DIY number 2. Now these are little jewel boxes that I had picked up from the dollar store a few weeks ago. So I took some gold paint and I gave this one a couple coats of paint, I changed from the brush to the sponge brush because the brush was not doing it justice, and this was easier to apply the paint. When I was done with that, I set it aside to dry. At first I thought white or silver, but then I settled on the white. So I took the white paint and gave this two coats of white of paint as well. Now I didn't have any masking tape at the time, but you can use any tape. Any tape you have is fine. So I decided to use the silver tape that I had. So what I did, I cut strips of it and placed it in the spaces on the box so I could paint it. So I gave it a couple coats, 2 coats of paint, and set that to dry. Then when they were dried, I applied Mod Podge, and the Mod Podge serves as a sealant. It seals the paint in as well as give it some sheen. So that is what it does. Now of course I couldn't have left them as is, so I decided to add some embellishment. I took some diamond wrap that I had and I placed it along the edges of the gold one, because this box did not have any grooves on it, so I needed to add something else. I gave it 1 row. You could actually give it more if you want to. You could actually bling all of the box if you want to. Whatever you want to do, that's fine. Now after painting the box gold, or whichever color you choose to paint it in, you could have left it as is, or you could do what I'm doing here, which is adding the diamond gem, the diamond wrap to it. In fact, let me know in the comments below what would your personal taste be for these boxes, okay? Be sure to check out video number 1, which is part 1 of this 2-part series. I will link that video above. That video has 3 DIYs on it. So this video will conclude the 2-part series for Valentine's this year. So when that was done, I removed the tape and I added some Mod Podge. And the Mod Podge is really to add the glitter. So I'm adding glitter to this one in the space where I had covered with the tape. These can be gifts or you can use them for yourself. I think I am going to be giving these as gifts. And when I was done, I poured back the excess glitter back into the bottle. I also took a piece of paper towel and removed the excess glitters from the box. Of course, I needed to add some diamond wrap to this as well, so I did that. Now, going on in the inside, I had craft felt, so I cut a couple pieces, put that on the inside. You have to measure, make sure you measure the distance before you actually cut. I measured the base first, and then I went up on the sides, and I combined both measurements into one and gave one cut. I didn't do this here, but I would recommend that you trace out outside surfaces and make like a template and use it to cut your measurements for both boxes, so that way you won't have to be cutting twice. I also took this spray adhesive from the Dollar Tree. I used that to spray the base before I actually put the felt in. I also went in with some hot glue just to make sure that it stays in place, because I know that the spray adhesive from the Dollar Tree is not as supportive as I would want it to. I must say this is a little time consuming, so make sure you have the time to, you don't have to do it in all one sitting. You can pause, take a break, but I got it done. So now we are moving on to the second one. So I didn't have any more red, and I thought that the pink would go well with the gold. So covering this one was a little easier than the first because I made a couple of mistakes in the first one, so this one was easier. So it didn't take me as long as it did with the first one. So I cut the insides out and then glued that in with spray adhesive, measured and cut the sides and glued those in as well, both with the adhesive and the hot glue. And before you know it, I was done with this one. So guys, if this is your first time, welcome. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. I am just using a craft stick to press the craft felt inwards to make sure that it is holding, and as I spray the adhesive, I also apply some hot glue just for a quick hold. Although it was time consuming working with these little boxes, I think I bonded with them because it felt so good working with them after a while because they're so cute. I'm just using a little nail polish remover to remove the excess paint that got on the latches and the hinges of the boxes. So after I was done, I took some hearts, table scatters, and glued them on top. So there you have it, 2 DIYs that concludes this Valentine's for 2021. I hope you enjoyed these DIYs and you plan to try them for yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye.